Okay, well, thanks to each of you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Jill Cizek, and as a number of you know, because I do see some people who have attended many of our other online sessions prior, I work in the Office of the Vice President for Health Sciences. I am very thankful to welcome Dr. Jeff Bartlett to join us today. Dr. Bartlett has been at UB since, I believe, what, 2016, Jeff?
That sounds right. So this is
2016.
2025, 9 years. Yes, 2016. Time has flown, that's for sure.
Okay, nice quick math. So since he's joined the University at Buffalo, he's had a number of different roles in the Division of Advancement that he's led on, everything from annual giving to his current role as the Assistant President, Vice President for Corporate and Foundation Relations. So Dr. Bartlett's office is the primary contact and the sole contact for the Mother Cabrini Health Foundation, which has this annual opportunity that we're all presented with. And we all recognize that there's a lot of interest in it. They've been very generous with UB in the past, but at the same time, some things do change and things get adjusted. So we thank him for taking the time to school us because I think that their funding opportunity opens in what, 3 or 4 days, right?
It's and we'll get into it, but yeah, next week. And thank you all for joining today. There's, as I'm looking at, there's quite a few of you, and so I know there's a lot of interest. So really appreciate you taking the time and hearing a little bit more about our work with Mother Cabrini and how we can help. So I've got just a few slides, but generally I'm here to answer questions. So hopefully we can have some conversations after I run through some things here. So we'll just quickly pull this up. So high level, as Jill said, the window for Mother Cabrini opens next Monday, March 31st, and LOIs are due April 24th. Uh, as is their way, everything is a tight turnaround with Cabrini. So we will find out. We submit in April. We will find out those who are invited to apply in May. Invitations on those full proposals are due in June. And then in late September and early December, we will begin to find out their grant decisions. One thing I'll mention real quickly is there is a webinar next Thursday at 1 o'clock that anyone can register for. My team will certainly be listening in, and they'll be able to do a lot of FAQs during that time as well. So if you have other questions, you can certainly participate in that next week. So let's talk specifically about the submission. So, as I said, April 24th is the date, but in order to get there, we've got a couple dates in front of us. So, our team actually manages the central portal for UB with Mother Cabrini. So we will submit all letters of intent and full applications. So to help us do that, we would appreciate knowing if you plan on applying by April 8th, and we'll make sure that you're getting all the updated information. Please submit your LOI to us no later than April 22nd at 5 o'clock. Yes, that's a couple days ahead of time, but we expect a lot of interest, and that means a lot of work on our team. And the challenge is only one person can be in the portal at a time, so we actually have to work across our team to make sure that we're blocking out time to let people get in there to submit the LOI. So the more time we have, the better. We anticipate that the LOI will look very familiar as last year's did. So those of you who applied last year will have some sense of what this looks like. But we will be able to provide an update on the LOI and the format on Monday when we're able to get into the portal as well. And just a quick reminder, well, these are LOIs. Click is not required, but we encourage you to work with your SPS person on developing the budget, because there are budget application or parts to the LOI that you'll need to submit. One note is that, the Cabrini website will mention that there's a 15% indirect cost. UB policy has been that they do not charge indirect costs, and SPS is aware of that. So just a little FYI for you. If you're not familiar with Mother Cabrini, they have four primary areas: access to healthcare, focused on affordability, accessibility, capacity, and acceptability; healthcare workforce, pipeline and recruitment; education, career progression, and equity and diversity; mental and behavioral health, interventions and treatment, capacity and access; and then basic needs, looking at various social services, economic security, housing, and food nutrition. They also have a fifth area, just a general fund that's really focused on priority populations: immigrants, justice involved individuals, so those who have been incarcerated, and families dealing with incarceration; low income, older adults, people with disabilities, veterans; and then young children, pregnant women, and new moms and dads being priority populations. One note, recipients must comply with the ethical principles, tenets, and teachings of the Roman Catholic faith. I know that sometimes this catches our faculty in a position where they can't accept, or that the plans are that it doesn't fit. But I think it's really important, to note that this is really important, obviously, to Mother Cabrini. So please be aware. If you are thinking about something, think through all the implications to the application. So this is, I think, what's really important for our conversation, along with the timeline. Just a couple things to keep in mind in applying. Mother Cabrini receives thousands of LOIs. They tend to grant approximately 1/3. Last year, we submitted 16 LOIs. 4 were invited at half the amount requested initially, and 2 eventually were funded. So that just kind of gives you a sense of the scale and scope of the process and the volume. They're really focused on direct service and not research. And in fact, our program officers that we work with are really, they emphasize this all the time, because we are a university. They will not support research. As one person said to me, they really want to fund downstream sorts of impact. So think about that from your perspective. Impact and community partners are really important. The last couple of years that of the applications that have been funded, 2 things that have come up in our review of those. First of all, we have been really clear on the impact that the proposal makes, and we have clearly articulated community partners that we are already engaged with. That was really important to them as well in previous years. So estimating the number and characteristics of the population served and providing a timeline is really important and is part of the application as well. And a note to current grantees, if anyone is on, you do have to submit through the LOI process for consideration for continued funding. And then just a couple other things. If you haven't looked at the website yet, please do so. There's lots of information, including FAQs and also a list of previous grantees that you can sort to see who's been funded and kind of what they've been funded for. I think one thing I did fail to mention, people are always curious how much they tend to ask for. Our successful grants have been in the 250 to 300 range. Mother Cabrini will fund typically 250 to 350. Occasionally they will go above that, and they will typically only fund for 1 year at a time. So those are kind of the highlights. And I know that was a lot in a little bit of time, or maybe not a lot. So let me open it up for questions that you might have.
So Jeff, you already have your first question. I'm going to ask everybody because we have so many people on to put your questions in the chat and I can help Dr. Bartlett. So first question, if you mention this, can you email this PowerPoint to the attendees of this meeting?
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to say, Jill, when we get off, I'll send this to you and this can be shared with everyone. Absolutely.
Okay. We will, what our office will typically do is we have a website that will provide you a link to the talk itself, and it will have the PowerPoint deck loaded up to it. Dr. Dietz manages all of that for our team.
What other questions do people have?
Jeff, I have a question. So when people are coming to you with concepts, do they vet them first with their deans or with their department chairs to make sure that they align with priorities? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I mean that's always helpful because we want to make sure that the time that you're investing and the time that we're investing is valuable and aligned. I would say if you have questions around that, give us a call. We can talk about it. But I will also say that when we've talked to Cabrini, because as I said, we submitted 16 last year. I think it was 12 or 13 the year before. They are also really open to just any ideas. So they don't limit us. They haven't put any limits on institutions up to this point. We don't anticipate that happening this year. So they're also, as I said, a foundation that's really interested in just hearing concepts as long as they are really impactful on the community. So, as much as I'd like to say, yes, we go through an approval process, that really hasn't been the case because in part, Cabrini really wants to just see good, well-developed ideas.
So we have another chat. Thank you for that. Lisa is asking, could you share a bit about what are the primary things supported within a Cabrini budget?
Yes, so they will support personnel, they'll support obviously a lot of it's program support that they're really focused on. We're trying to think of the last couple that we've had. Lisa, maybe if you're on, or you can ask if you've got something specific in mind. I mean, generally, I think we've found that they're open to supporting a lot of different things. Part of the application or part of the LOI is a justification narrative around budget. So I think that's really important to remember. If you're thinking about something more specific, happy to answer the question.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think I was just wondering, like, given the focus on community partners and the focus on like a clinical impact as opposed to sort of any sort of research,
Yep.
I guess I was just wondering, is it like maybe paying a community partner, or like, is it possible to have someone like as part of the team who's going to directly provide a service? I guess those were like the kinds of things that I was wondering.
Yeah, I think they seem to be open to those sorts of things. I'm trying to think if we've done any sub-grants specifically. I know we're working on one right now that has lots of sub-grant components to it. Les Basson did one for CPR last year. There was certainly some partnership. I can't recall offhand if there was payment to those organizations. There may have been, but I think again they're looking at on the ground clinical support and program support. So whatever it takes to achieve that, they seem to be willing to have that conversation and be open to that.
Thank you.
Jeff, two other questions on the chat are similar.
Okay.
So people are asking if you can share what were accepted last year. So what I did is I put the link into their grants database that anybody can query. And so we shared that as a resource, but then Leah was asking if you can clear about the two that were funded at UB last year. Was the original request for 500,000 and then they were funded at 250, or the original request was $1 million and then funded?
Yeah, no. So the one I think was around 300 that eventually was funded for about 170. The other one was, gosh, what was the other one? I think we asked closer to 400 and it came in at around 200. That's kind of, calling off the top of my head, but generally what we've seen is, and the four that were invited proposals were basically half of what we initially asked for. And that seems to be common practice, I think, with them. Jill, and you might recall before I came in the role, it seems to be rare that they fund something at the full amount, in large part because they get so many requests that it's I think a way that they can try to help as many organizations as possible. So what that means for you though is you need to think about scale. If you are invited and get something, but it's half of what you were initially proposing, just think about, how you might have to scale that.
So Jake had a question about the perception of different size grants, and if something is a smaller project, if you feel that it's potentially seen as weaker. The only thing I would say is, Jake, if you go to the link that we just put in, you're going to see that they're all over the range of funding amounts. Correct, Dr. Bartlett?
Yeah, absolutely. The 300 to 350 truly is an average. So, we've seen, as we look at it, projects that are $75,000, projects that are 100, projects that are 500. Occasionally, you'll see something beyond that, but they really are all over. I think what they seem to really think is less about the dollar amount and more about the impact that the proposal is going to have and the community partners that you're bringing on.
Another question from Leah is, do you have a sense if they're interested in funding something from the start, like a newer project, or are they more inclined to fund something that's already up and running to expand it?
Yeah, Leah, I wish I wish I had an answer for you because some of the proposals that we've submitted, we think there's absolutely no chance this is going to be invited, and it's invited. And those are both continuing or new. So I wish I had an answer, but I really don't. It's a little bit of a black box when we submit them to Cabrini to see what really piques their interest in the coming year.
So Dr. Landsettle is asking if they provide any information publicly, like the abstract or aims. He said in looking at the grants database, he doesn't see that. But Doug, for many of those, you can push through to the organization and kind of get an idea a little bit, and then by looking at the title. But Jeff, I've never seen abstracts.
No, I've never seen that, nor have we ever received any feedback on submissions. Other questions?
Leah just had one more that I skipped past, and I'll come back to it.
Sure.
Do you have a sense if they really encourage community partnerships as part of what they're preferred to see, or does that not matter?
I would say yes, it absolutely does matter. In fact, one proposal that was funded last year, when we did the review with the program officer, she actually called out one of the things that most impressed them was the number and the depth of the community partner, that it wasn't a new partnership, that it was an existing one, and how how impactful that was to them. So I think, if you don't have that, is it going to disqualify you? No, but I think if you can build a community partner into the program, or show that you have community partners that are helpful to achieving success, I think that is really an important part of the proposal.
What about support for capital expenditures? Have you seen that?
We have seen support for capital projects. Cabrini's actually funded a couple of vans on campus, so there's a capital portion along with program support. They have funded occasionally scholarships. So those things are not out of the realm of possibility. But I think again, it really comes back to what's the impact you're looking to make and how many people are going to be impacted by the project.
It looks like you have a question from somebody who's applied previously that was not funded.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way for their team to get feedback if they wanted to resubmit?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've not had that feedback. They don't provide it, and again, because they're dealing with thousands of applicants every year, I think it's a volume game. Sometimes we can get a little bit of insight from the program officers, but it tends to be fairly generic. And as I said, in all these ideas are good ideas. They're all impactful ideas. I think it just whatever resonates with the board at the time. Not helpful, I realize that, and I'm sorry, but that tends to be the way some of these happen.
So one of your colleagues actually in advancement is saying, I have some partners, prospects, donors who are very integrated into the Catholic diocese community who are willing to partner with entities at UB. How could they become allies to UB interests, which could help bolster opportunities?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the program, Doug, and where it makes the most sense. I would say just adding a Catholic entity into the proposal doesn't necessarily help it unless there's a specific direct impact that organization would have. If we have that and it's a strong existing one, I think that's fine. But it certainly has not been anything that has excluded us in the past by not having a Catholic partner per se. It's really more about, do we have a good, strong community partner where it makes sense.
AJ, who submitted last year, and it sounds like maybe they just need to reach out to your office, but they're saying if should they say in the LOI that they applied last year, at least acknowledge that it's a resubmission?
Yeah, that's a good question, AJ. I've not seen that in the ones that we've gotten in the past. I think, obviously they kind of track who they invite each year. So I can't say if it would necessarily hurt or help. I would say it's probably not necessary. And frankly, given the tight word count limits, you might not want to take those words to say that. It could be more valuable to help flesh out an idea.
Do you believe that they would fund programs that move towards equalizing racial health disparities, Indigenous populations, or should the emphasis for a proposal really be on aligning with their priority populations?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I would say, would they fund something? Yes. As you can see, their priority populations and their priorities are fairly open. So I think if you have a project with a specific targeted population in mind, I think it's absolutely worth submitting. I would say that, and thank you for this question, because it does remind me that a previous conversation I did have with the program officer, they were also really focused on low income. So be mindful that anything that we do, if we can tie it into low income, regardless of the population, can be helpful as well. So think about rural communities along with some of our neighbors on the east and west side of Buffalo, if that's what you're thinking.
Dr. McPherson is asking, is it positive or negative if a project being submitted overlaps significantly between two programs? His example is, have there been successful proposals that clearly spilled into two programs, or should they try and stay within the confines of one?
Oh, that's a great question. I've not seen that. So I can't really say if it's good or bad. I would say that if it's a well-constructed proposal and if it's hitting a couple of their priorities, I can't help but think that it might be a positive. Um, Again, I think it really comes down to what's the impact and does the program support that? Feel like I'm starting to kind of repeat myself, so I hope not. But
Oh, you're answering people's questions. That's good.
yeah.
Um,
But I'm trying. I don't. Karen, I see you on the screen here too. Do you recall? I don't recall anything that necessarily came across as two different priority areas. Um,
I mean, personally, I would think that maybe he should talk, maybe talk to you offline about it, because I would think I
Sure.
would want to know exactly what,
More specifics. Yeah, I would
yeah, more
agree.
specifics about what, if it makes sense to do two or one, or that would be my guess, because I'm not sure, kind of just thinking about it off the top of my head, if they would do that.
Yeah.
So.
Jeff, how much has Cabrini supported UB with to date? Do you have a ballpark idea? Total?
I'd have to go back and look. They've been doing this
Just
for
curious.
what? I mean, it's
4
still a
years.
relatively new foundation. So is this year 4? We've been very fortunate that every year we've gotten funding and we've gotten multiple grants. If I had to guess, I mean, last year I think we were around $450,000. So over the last couple of years, we're probably at 1 million, 1.25, somewhere in there.
And the dental mobile unit was about $1 million, frankly. So that's, yeah.
Was it that much?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
between two
So
tranches.
more than that then.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to share, or do you want to just reiterate for people the deadlines and what they need to do?
Yeah, again, and happy to have conversations offline at any time. Again, I think for our purposes, if you can let me know if you are interested in submitting, let me know no later than April 8th, so that we can kind of keep track of who we expect to hear from. We will get into the portal as soon as we can on Monday when it opens, and we'll start pulling the LOI and the budget worksheet, and we'll be able to send that out to everyone. So again, incentive to let us know that you're interested. We'll make sure that you've got the most recent LOI template. But I think for the purposes today, the most important thing is April 22nd. To ensure that we have the time to upload your application by the 24th.
And so just to clarify, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Jill.
Cabrini, people can only submit through your office. They cannot create their own account.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. So I will send this information out. It's got my contact information, and again, happy to have any additional conversations that you may wish to have.
Jeff, thanks for taking the lead on this and for sharing the information. I know that there's always so much interest in this, and I can only imagine that it's going to increase over the years, but your team and your office do an amazing job in nurturing the relationship and getting all the faculty the information that they need. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Lee, you were asking how they define impact. When we talk to the program officer, he always talks about downstream impact. So again, not research, but how many people, what populations are being impacted? Are you making a difference? So Unfortunately, a lot of it tends to come back to numbers. But I think that however you define impact, that's to make the case that this is why the program is going to make a difference in the lives of a population in a community. And again, we could talk more offline, Lee, if you'd like. I'm happy to do that.
Lena is asking for your contact information. People should just be able to find it under Bartlett.
Yep,
if you do
it's in the slide deck as well.
Okay.
GBARTLET, only one T at the end, not two. Don't know why. That's just the way it is. At buffalo.edu is the best way. Or look for me in the directory, and Geoffrey with a G, as opposed to other Geoffreys.
Thank you, Dr. Bartlett.
You are very welcome. Thank you, everyone, for your interest. And again, reach out. Let me know what questions you might have. Otherwise, we'll look forward to working with you.
And don't wait till the last minute.
Don't wait until I can't guarantee anything. Don't wait until the last minute.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.